Welcome to the third webinar in our series about grazier safety series, presented in conjunction with OB Organic and Grazing BMP. I'm Ros Rees, the Senior Project Officer with the Agriculture Unit of Workplace Health and Safety Queensland, your facilitator for today. Thank you for joining us for today's session, which will be going through the third element of the safety management system, safe systems of work. The first webinar is on our website, and I'll provide that address at the end of today's session. The second webinar will be there shortly, and I'll let you know when that's available. Just a reminder that although these webinars are focusing on beef production, the principles of the safety management system can be applied to any industry sector. Please send through any questions during the webinar, and we'll endeavour to answer them at the end. Please also take a few minutes to complete the survey at the end of the webinar, as it provides us with valuable feedback. Your presenter for today is Brenton Garlick, Senior Project Officer in Compliance and Business Engagement Unit of Workplace Health and Safety. I'll now hand you over to Brenton.
Thanks for that, Ros, and welcome everyone again to the third webinar in this series. As Ros did say, today's session we will go through the third element of the safety management system, and that is safe systems of work. This is the next step after you have completed your risk assessments. But don't worry if you haven't heard the webinar and you haven't had a time to do that. As Ros said, the recordings will be available for you shortly, and we'll let you know when that is. Okay, so one way of demonstrating safe systems of work is to have a safe work procedure. A safe work procedure provides directions on how work is to be carried out safely, and it helps to identify hazards and risks and clarify what must be done to eliminate or minimise the risks. First, we'll start with a little background to best practice and the process behind managing risk in the workplace by understanding the why and the how. So why do we use safe work procedures? As we know, the legislation tells us that we need to manage risks in the workplace. Using safe work procedures helps to demonstrate the risk management. It helps to highlight the risks and the controls we are going to use, and it allows for a standardised work process and provides an effective tool for training and supervision. And how should this be done? Well, we look at best practice throughout the industry. We seek to identify the hazardous tasks and control them. We develop and implement safe work procedures. We involve your workers and the people in the workplace who actually do the tasks and make sure it's a collaborative process. And we follow and review your procedures to ensure they are the most effective. So safe work procedures can also be known by many other names. They may also be referred to by terms such as job safety analysis, or JSA. They may be job hazard analysis, or a JHA, or even a standardised operating procedure, or an SOP. That's just to name a few. You may have heard many other terms out there yourself when you're doing your jobs. So when is a safe work procedure required? It's important to consider when you need written safe work procedures, as you don't always need to have them for all your tasks. To determine whether you need them, you should consider things such as how severe the consequences of an accident should be, how often the task is done, and how complex the task is. However, we also need to make sure that written safe work procedures are required for such tasks where they are deemed to be a hazardous task. They may be complicated tasks. They may be frequently performed, and less routine tasks for which workers may need to have reminders for. Safe work procedures provide information to assist your workers and other people who come into your workplace to perform those tasks safely, as it is a way to identify the hazards involved and put into place ways to prevent an injury or illness occurring. They are also a useful tool for training and supervising workers by providing them with the preferred way to safely perform the tasks or the activities. Some of these procedures may seem like common sense, but this depends on the experience of your workers or the people completing the tasks, and they also still need to be documented. So we're now going to talk through how to write or develop your safe work procedures for your workplace. So there are a number of steps to work through, which we are going to identify in the next couple of slides for you. So firstly, you need to identify and prioritise the tasks that you think will require the safe work procedures. You need to consider all your tasks or activities in the workplace and which of these would potentially cause harm if risks are not addressed. It's important that you consult with your workers or the people who come into your workplace and involve them in identifying and resolving safety issues. You should start with the tasks or the activities that could cause more serious consequences first and work your way through the rest of the tasks. The guide to developing a safe work procedure has been provided to you. This will also be sent out to you at the end of the webinar in a template, and it is also available on our website. So the next step is to set about developing your safe work procedures by analysing the tasks that you have in your workplace. It's important that you involve your workers and other people in the workplace in identifying and resolving any safety issues because they are the ones that are doing the work. This will make sure that the safe work procedures are most effective. Because the workers have helped develop them, they will be readily taken on board and they will be more easily applied in the workplace. Some of the ways you can consult with your workers and other people in the workplace include things like toolbox talks, organised meetings, through a safety committee. They can be informal discussions such as over a cup of tea or during breaks, as well as many other opportunities that you may have with your workers. You need to identify the basic steps involved in any task or activity and the possible risks at each step. It's important to observe the tasks or the activity to ensure that you don't miss anything. You should also seek information about the possible risks involved and work to control the risks. To do this, you use a hierarchy of control, which we discussed in the last webinar on risk management. This is also available in the Serious About Farm Safety Guide and also on our website. So you need to look at each step involved in the task and identify what could go wrong. So identify the hazards and the risks. Then look at what can be done to control these hazards and risks. So a template for a task analysis has been sent out to you. Again, if you've not been able to download this, it will be sent out to you at the end of the recording, as well as on screen here you can see the task analysis template. So this example of a task analysis is provided for operating a quad bike. As you'll see, the 3 columns will help to analyse the task you are doing. You'll see that the first column outlines the basic steps of the task. The next column details what can go wrong or the hazards and risks associated with each of those steps. And the final column details what you can do about it, which is then your control measures. Some of the controls may only need to be done once, so these don't need to be part of an ongoing procedure for use, such as if you're using another vehicle, this can be taken out when documenting your safe work procedure. Another document has been sent out to you, and that is the Safe Systems of Work process for developing safe work procedures. This is done with part of our small business program, and it gives you those 5 steps in processing your safe work procedure and breaks it down into easy, manageable chunks. So we'll just go through those again while we're looking at the task analysis. So number 1 is to list the hazardous tasks done in your business. Number 2 is to choose one of those hazards and do the task analysis. Number 3 is to choose the controls you're going to use from the what to do about it, which is that controls column there, the third one you see on screen. Number 4 is to apply the results of your task analysis to write your safe work procedure. And number 5, choose your next hazard or task and repeat the prior steps. So if we'll just go through and have a look at that task analysis in a bit more detail, as you can see, steps of the task we are doing is the operating of a quad bike. So the steps are things like selecting your vehicle, turning on and putting the vehicle into gear, ride to the designated paddock, muster your cattle while you're out there, and then lastly drive the herd to the designated yards. So what can go wrong when you're doing those tasks? So what are your hazards and what are your risks? One of your first risks could be that the quad bike is damaged or badly maintained. You could be dealing with inexperienced riders. The quad bike obviously can overturn depending on the ground that you're riding on, as well as things like sticks and rocks flicking up, sunburn and heat stress. And if you have a look at that third column there, that just gives you some suggestions about how you actually control those hazards and the risks. So the first thing you would do is maybe do a pre-start check, such as checking your fuel, tyres, guards, chain tension and brakes. At least that will tell you if the bike has been maintained or the quad bike has been maintained and if it is actually fit for use. So once you've written the task analysis, you're ready to develop your safe work procedure, as your safe work procedure does flow from the task analysis. The items in the control column form the safe work procedure. So that's the third column that you've seen from the previous slide. In a hard copy, if you've got this written down, you can fold the task analysis to take out the middle column, leaving the steps and procedures, which was your column 1, and then the controls, which is your column 3. So this, in effect, is your safe work procedure. You don't need to include hazards that you are able to eliminate, so just cross those out or delete them. Whatever remains is what people need to know to do the task safely. The remaining risks are then called your residual risks, and they form the safe work procedure. So keep the layout and formatting clear and as simple as possible to follow. When documenting the safe work procedure, it's important that you ensure you're easy to read and follow. You can include diagrams and pictures to help explain the procedures. And first, you should set out the job procedures step by step and start each step with an action word. So for example, instead of saying protective gloves are to be worn, be more decisive and say wear protective gloves. You should make sure the steps flow from one step to the next by putting the main ideas first, and you should use point form as well as short and clear sentences. It's best to avoid repetition as well as jargon and acronyms or abbreviations where possible. And make sure you include white space to make it easy for the people to read. So on screen here now, this has been sent out, and again, we'll be able to send all of these templates to you at the end of the webinar. This is another simple format that can be used for your safe work procedure. As you can see, it is set out a little bit differently to the previous slide, but it does still have all the same information. And again, here is another example of the safe work procedure using some graphics, which makes it a little bit easier to read if you're looking at it fairly quickly. These samples are in the series about farm safety guide templates, which are on our website, and the link will be sent to you at the end of this webinar. So the next step is to make your safe work procedures easy to read and easy to locate. For example, if the task is done on a fixed piece of equipment, display the safe work procedure next to that equipment so it's easily accessible by all your workers or anyone who's actually doing the task. You need to implement the safe work procedures through training, so that's through induction, task-specific training, and any other relevant training that you do have in your workplace. And finally, if the safe work procedures are not followed, you need to consider your disciplinary action and how you are going to get your people to comply with the safe work procedures that you have in place. So reviewing your safe work procedures. It's important that you continually review your safe work procedures so that they are current. Make sure it's done if there is an injury or near miss, or if there are changes such as new equipment or associated processes. It's also important to review your safe work procedures if there are any changes in the legislation, in the standards or the codes of practice, or any change in technology, as well as looking at where you're dealing with machinery and quad bikes, any manufacturer's instructions that come along with that. In fact, periodic review of all safe work procedures will ensure that they are current and up to date and as effective as they can be. So the number of safe work procedures you have will depend on the nature and type of your work activities. You will have fewer safe work procedures in an office environment where there are very few high-risk tasks, as opposed to cattle production, farming, construction and manufacturing, which are all high-risk environments and encompass high-risk activities. And as a recurring theme throughout all of the webinars and everything that we do here in Workplace Health and Safety, we do emphasise consult with your workers or consult with people in the workplace. Now, consultation is part of the legislation and it is a very important part of developing your safety management systems. So involve your workers and people in the workplace who come on and assist you with your tasks. in the processes of developing the safe work procedures to make sure that they have the opportunity to provide any input and any feedback. So this will keep them engaged in the process, and they will be more inclined to follow the procedures because they have been involved in developing them. So in summary, safe work procedures are a means of briefly documenting the risks associated with a work task and incorporating appropriate controls into a sequence of steps for doing the task safely. They ensure your workers are aware of the issues in their work tasks and outline how to avoid injury or illness while doing these tasks. They are most effective when developed in consultation with your workers, and they provide a useful tool for induction, training, and supervising your workers. They should be reviewed if you have an incident at your workplace and if there are changes occur in the workplace as well. We have also provided a guide to developing safe work procedures which provides an overview to this process. A safe work procedure checklist has been provided, and this will ensure you have completed all the steps in the process. So with the safe work procedures and the task analysis, as we have shown you in our slides, there are quite a number of different versions of that. You may have your own, or you may like to use the ones that are provided by Workplace Health and Safety Queensland. All those tools have been sent out to you via email. However, if you've not been able to download those or be able to get those before the webinar, we will be able to send them out to you after the webinar, as well as provide you with links to find these on the website. So that's all the information that I have for you today. So what I'll do, I'll hand you back over to Roz so that we can start to look at any questions that we have.
So we have time for questions. So if you've got any questions, send those through and we'll have a look at those for you. Up on the screen now is all the contact information. So our web address is www.worksafe.qld.gov.au. The info line number is 1300 362 128. And we have a direct email address, so have any specific questions for your business or you'd like some particular information, please email us at agriculture@justice.qld.gov.au and I'll respond to you and try to find out whatever information it is as quickly as I can. A reminder to please take a few minutes to complete the survey that will pop up at the end of the webinar. And we have 3 eSafes a year for rural, and the next one's due out in September. So if you'd like to subscribe to the eSafe, go onto our website and look for the link to that. So thank you very much everyone for attending the webinar today, and I will email everyone with the attachments in case you weren't able to download them. And please email me if you have any specific questions. Otherwise, we'll talk to you again on the 4th of October, and thanks for attending today.